Hi, this is Manoj Patula, pursuing Masters in Computer Science at University of Florida. Today I would like to present about my pattern recognition course project, Analysis of Classification Models for Email Spam Filtering. So let's go to the introduction. Emails have been a major form of communication over the last decade for business and personal users. But users are bombarded with spam emails very frequently these days. Spam emails are nothing but the emails that contain unsolicited data and disguised links that appear to be for a familiar website but in fact lead to phishing websites or sites that are hosting malware. Spam emails have grown exponentially over years. In the figure here, you can see the spam statistics for May 2016 processed by Ironport anti-spam system. You can see that most of the graph, I mean pie chart graph, is occupied by the positive spam here, which is 80%. So 80% of emails are positive spam according to this report. That's why the spam filtering techniques have become very important these days. Coming to the project architecture, basically the project is about developing spam filtering algorithms based on different machine learning classifiers by training the models on huge email data. And a comparative analysis of performance of these different classifiers is also made at the end. So there are 5 modules in this project: data gathering and pre-processing, data analysis, feature extraction, training and testing, and comparative study. So if we can see the flow chart of this project, we can understand the control flow. Like, first the email data is pre-processed, and then the features are extracted from the pre-processed email data, and then the features are fed into the model. First the features are divided into train data and test data in the ratio of 60 is to 40, and then uh, the model is the classifier is being trained with this train data, and then the classifier is being tested with the 40% test data that we have taken as a test data, and then it is evaluated for best results. So coming to the next slide, this slide is talking about the data set that I have used. I have used Enron email data corpus. It is around 500 MB of email data, and it is a pre-processed data. It doesn't contain any stop words like and, the, etc. And a lemmatization is also performed. For example, the words like working, worked, work, all of them are changed to work, and so that while calculating the frequency of words in a document, if working, work, and worked are there, both all of them are considered as only one word, and the frequency will be 3. So the total number of emails present in this data set is around 32,000, and they are almost equally distributed between spam and legitimate emails. And this is about the data set. Basically, some analysis is performed on the data by visualizing the data. uh, we can see that these 3000 words are the most frequent words in all the emails, and we can see that the most frequent word has a frequency of around 250,000, which is very huge. This happened because if we look into the most frequent words manually, then I have found that there are some insignificant words which are not needed for which are not to be present in the data for better results. So removing the insignificant words, which are 20 in the case of this project, and then plotting the graph without insignificant words, we can see that the most frequent word has a frequency of 8000. This is a very good reasonable data. When coming to feature extraction, Uh, the number of features that are present per email is considered to be 3000 features. The 3000 features are the correspond to the most frequent 3000 words. Like if xi is the feature, then value of xi, which is corresponding to word wi, is the frequency of occurrence of that word in the particular email e. So this is about feature extraction, and if we continue further, then comes the training and testing classifiers. The first classifier is naive-Bayes classifier. Naive-Bayes classifier works well with huge data sets. It is primarily based on the Bayes theorem. Here we can see the formula of Bayes theorem for the posterior probability calculation of class given of a particular class given the vector x. I mean feature x. Uh, so there are basically three types of naive-Bayes classifiers. You can see that I have performed the data. I mean, I have trained three classifiers in naive-Bayes. They are Gaussian naive-Bayes, multinomial naive-Bayes, and Bernoulli naive-Bayes. Actually, to give a short short note about these classifiers. Gaussian naive-Bayes considers the features to be in normal distribution, which is not the same in our case. The features may not be in normal distribution, whereas the multinomial naive-Bayes classifier is used in text classification problems. Features can be frequency of occurrence of word in a document, and actually multinomial naive-Bayes suits well to our requirements because our features have values which are nothing but the frequency of occurrence of the words in documents. And Bernoulli classifier performs well in the case where feature vector dimensions have binary values, that is either 0 or 1. So if we consider the confusion matrices that are obtained by testing these classifiers again as the email data, we can see that the false negatives are nothing but the legitimate data, a legitimate email being predicted as a spam email wrongly. So there are 787 legitimate emails which are wrongly predicted as spam, and these are the two cells which are very important to us. Uh, these false positives are nothing but the number of spam emails which are wrongly predicted as legitimate emails. So we have to put more concentration on the number of legitimate emails which are wrongly predicted as spam, because it's a big issue, because the spam filtering technique will become untrustworthy if the legitimate emails are predicted as spam and they went into the spam box. So in this case, if we try to analyze these three classifiers, we can see that multinomial naive-Bayes performs well with less number of false negatives and less number of false positives. If you see, an interesting fact with Bernoulli naive-Bayes is that it has less number of false positives. So, but if you take the number of legitimate emails which are considered as spam, it's very huge. So this becomes a bad classifier. Uh, Whereas a multinomial naive-Bayes has a balance between false, has a good, has less number of false negatives and less number of false positives. So the next classifier is k nearest neighbors classifier. This classifier basically finds the k nearest neighbors to the particular data point for which we have to determine the class, and then based on the majority class of those k nearest neighbors, uh, yeah based on and then the classifier assigns the class which is the majority class among those k nearest neighbors. So if we take an example to look into it, if k equal to 3, looking at this picture we can see that there are k equal to 3 and k equal to 6, and class A and class B are the classes. So first let's take the case with k equal to 3. This star is the data point for which we have to predict the class, and we can see that within this radius there are three neighbors. Out of them, two are of class B and one is of class A. So the classifier assigns class B to the data point. If k equal to 6, we can see that class A has 4 data values in it. I mean, four neighbors are of class A and two neighbors are of class B when k equal to 6. So that classifier assigns class A to the data point star. So this is how the KNN works, and let's see what results we got with KNN. So the results for k equal to 3, basically the pretty bad thing about KNN is it's time consuming. The running time is very high, 25.3 minutes. And if you take the false negatives and false positives, they are also pretty high, and it's not desirable. 963 is a very big value compared to the other classifiers that we have seen so far, the naive Bayes classifiers. So Canon is probably the worst classifier to use for spam filtering. Let's go to the next classifier. If you take the support vector machine classifier, it actually divides, I mean, it actually considers the features in the feature vector as an n-dimensional space where n is the number of features in the feature vector. So each feature is considered as a dimension. Suppose we consider there are two features x and y. They are drawn into the 2D space with one axis as x and another axis as y. So the value of the feature x, suppose say let's take an example having a data point with value 3 comma 5, where x equal to 3 and y equal to 5. Then if we plot the data point on its two-dimensional space, then suppose say this star is the point 3 comma 5, then this point represents the actual data point in the data set. So in that case, SVM classifier basically divides the points which are plotted in the n-dimensional space. In this case, it's 2D space. Let's say in 2D space. So it plots the data points in 2D space and divides the data points into two classes based on a hyperplane. In the two-dimensional space, it is a line. You can see that a star is present on the other side of the line, which is an outlier. So support vector machines handle the outliers too very well. So the hyperplane is decided based on the margin, the distance from the plane to the nearest point on one side is calculated as the distance margin. So if the margin is high, that is more probable to be considered as a hyperplane. So let's see the results of support vector machine. So I have used SVM linear kernel classifier here. This seems to be the best classifier in terms of both accuracy and efficiency. It takes around 5 to 10 seconds of execution time, and if you see the false negatives and false positives, they are below 200 and they are very less. This classifier performs better than all the other classifiers according to the results. Next comes the decision tree classifier. In decision tree classifier, basically at each node a question is asked and then it moves to the left or right. Here we took a binary tree, so it either moves to the left or right. For example, if you take a data point with x comma y values as x comma y are the features here, and in the feature vector, if you take x comma y values as 6 and 7, when you come to the root node, you check whether x is greater than 5, 6 is greater than 5, so it goes to the right, and then y value, which is 7, is less than 10, so it goes to the left. and at every leaf node a class is being maintained by the decision tree classifier. So here the class is blue, so the data point 6 comma 7 is assigned, data point corresponding to the feature vector 6 comma 7 is being assigned the class blue. So if we go and see the decision tree classifier results, actually there are three classifiers which are based on which are primarily based on decision tree. So the basic difference in performance between decision tree, random forest, and extra trees is random forest and extra trees perform very quickly. They are more efficient than decision tree. Seeing the results, we can see that decision tree doesn't perform well. We can see that false negatives and false positives are high. In case of random forest, they are pretty fine, like 178 and 221. And if we kind of compare the classifiers, we can see that random forest performs better in case of false positives, whereas extra trees performs better in case of false negatives. We have primary focus on the false negatives where the legitimate email is wrongly predicted as spam email. So we can say that the extra trees classifier performs best among these decision tree classifiers present. So if we compare all the classifiers based on the precision and recall, so recall, if recall is high, then the number of legitimate emails which are wrongly predicted as spam emails is very less. So basically we need both precision and recall to be high, more weightage given to recall. So if we look at these statistics which are present here, we can see that obviously KNN performs bad in both precision recall and running time. So this is the worst classifier. Then best classifier is SPM linear, which has precision and recall values very high, 0.99, and its running time is very good enough. And if you consider the next second best classifier is multinomial naive Bayes classifier, uh, which has a precision of 0.98 and recall as 0.97, and the running time is also pretty good. And then the other classifiers like extra T's performs pretty fine. So we can consider using SVM linear extra trees and multinomial naive Bayes classifiers for spam filtering, but SVM linear performs the best. So now let's go to the demo of the code. So this is a IPython notebook in which I have extracted the features. First of all, this function is for generating the frequency dictionaries. We have to generate two frequency dictionaries, one for the word count frequency dictionary and one for the file. One is word count dictionary and another is file dictionary. In word count dictionary, you basically capture the frequency of each word in all the documents, like the key is word and value is the frequency of the occurrence of word in all the emails. This way you will be able to capture the most frequent 3000 words using this function, using this dictionary. And then the file dictionary is used in extracting features. So file dictionary has the key value as the file name, but that is the email file name, and the value is another dictionary which contains all the words as keys, all the words present in the file as keys, and their frequencies in that particular as their values. uh, so basically if we see here, we get the word count dictionary and file dictionary. We get the most frequent words and frequency words, and then we divide the file dictionary into chunks because it's a huge data of around 300 MB. uh, you can assume the size to be so, and it's divided into chunks. Hmm. And then the features are extracted into features.csv file iteratively by appending the data to the features.csv file. Thus the features are extracted, and then let's go to the training and testing models. So here are the imports of all the classifiers, and then I used Python data frames, which are very efficient in handling with large data. So the features.csv file, which is around 200 MB, having around 200 MB of data, 200 MB of data is taken into a data frame, and then yes, uh, and then the data email features data is divided into training data and test data, with 60% as training data and 40% as test data. So if we consider then the linear kernel model is being trained and tested here, and we can see the confusion matrix where the values are pretty good, less than 200 as we have seen in the slides, and the precision score is also very good, 0.98 and 0.98, like if you see the 6 here. So yeah, so linear SVC, which is the SVM linear kernel model, is the best classifier, which has very high precision and recall scores, and this is already been executed once. We can run it for a test demo. Yeah, it's pretty fast, and we can see that we can see the run values. Yeah, let's continue further with naive Bayes classifiers. There are three types as we discussed: Gaussian, Bernoulli, and the multinomial naive Bayes. So yeah, these are the results of these confusion matrix, precision, and recall score. So we can see that Gaussian and Bernoulli has uh, more number of false negatives, 832 and 615, whereas multinomial has less number of false negatives, and which performs best among these, just 202. And then let's go to the Decision tree classifier. There are we tested our three classifiers which are based on decision trees. Uh, yeah, here we trained and tested the decision tree here, and then random forest here and extra trees here. So we can see based on the confusion matrix. I mean, we can see based on the precision and recall scores that yeah, extra trees performs better than decision trees, and random forest performs better than decision trees. And these are quick compared to the decision tree model. So this is the, we can actually make a dry run of this ones if we want. We can see the results coming out. So these are the results, and the execution has stopped. Yeah, this is the demo of the project, and let's go back to the slides. Let's go to full screen. So now the conclusion is that the SVM linear classifier, as we discussed, performs the best among the all the classifiers. But the problem with SVM linear classifier is that it lacks in efficiency when dealing with larger data sets because of its quadratic complexity. Whereas naive Bayes is performs very well. I mean, Yeah, Naibias performs very well when dealing with massive data sets. If the data is huge, even then it performs good. So Naibias multinomial classifier would be the best choice among all the classifiers. If the data is not huge, then we can use SVM classifier. Thank you.